Hey everyone, it's Kellen Brower from RacerX, back again with another race examination video. Going to highlight a couple things here from Washougal, and particularly we're going to start off by talking about basically Chase Sexton and Eli Tomac, and how right from the start of 450 Moto number 1, we knew we were in for a pretty good day, because Sexton is going to take the lead from Dungey and send it over the top of Horsepower Hill. Now, TV really doesn't do it justice, because this is a big drop, and you can see at some point here Sexton's pretty far off the ground, and Dungey has already landed before Sexton is even hitting the ground. So big send off the hill to take the lead from Dungey on the first lap of the race. But Eli Tomac a few moments later says, well, anything you do, I can do better, as he's going to launch into the sand trying to pass Ryan Dungey on the opening laps of the race here as well. Also has a hard landing, but a nice job just kind of pulling it back together. These guys were absolutely on a different level, basically the last couple of weeks, really, but at Washougal, they were putting so much time on everybody, and a lot of it had to do with the method in which they attacked the racetrack here, and you can see Tomac sending it into the sand and making it look way easier than it is to do that. But these guys were, like I said, they're just on another level. So a little bit later on, I want to highlight Eli Tomac having a bit of a moment here as he heads up Horsepower Hill, and I feel like I've seen this a couple times out of Tomac this year, where he's just kind of riding a little bit looser, I would say, than what we've seen out of Tomac, with the feet off the bike a lot, and just kind of doing some cool little unique things here. But as I go back and highlight this moment from going through the second turn complex here before Horsepower Hill, you can actually notice both of his feet come off the bike here before he gets the feet planted back on and continues powering up the hill. But just so calm and cool and collected about it. And even this moment right here, look at this. He's going to have the inside foot off, and he's going to push down through this little like bump right here to kind of scrub over the top of the hill. Like just little tiny details there that you can see these guys doing, that's incredible to watch back in slow motion. I love watching the way that they attack these racetracks. But of course, the big moment of the day came late in 450 Moto number 1, where Tomac is going to fall from the race lead. Sexton runs into him. They fall on top of each other. Tomac tries to pick up the bike. He loses it. Sexton can't get the bike started. And somehow, some way, after about 13 agonizing seconds of them standing there, they're able to both get the bikes fired and continue on, basically in the same manner in which the battle was beforehand. But what happens here is Tomac's going to try to get powered through this little kind of divot in the corner, and he's going to just kind of not have enough power to get caught back up. So he just tucks and kind of low sides the front end. So Sexton runs into him. He has nowhere to go. So Sexton picks up the bike with these opposite cross arms thing, trying to hold the clutch in, but he actually loses the clutch right there. Then Tomac tries to do the same thing, trying to keep his Yamaha running, but he kind of rodeos the bike because the bars twist as he's picking the bike back up. So he falls back down again. Sexton, the whole time, he's just trying to get the bike fired, just holding down that electric start button. Said he was maybe going to go to neutral, or try to put it in neutral here in a few moments if he couldn't get it going, but it gets fired. The exact same time, Tomac has already picked his bike up again and gets the bike fired as well. And then they both kind of, saddle back onto the bike. Another thing I wanted to point out here is look at these fans here on the right side of the track, just absolutely going insane, as if like they're going by on a normal racing lap, but these guys both just picked it up from a very interesting crash. And this whole sequence, I mean, you just can't script this stuff. These guys have been basically, nose to tail the last 2.5 weeks, more or less, of racing, and really pushing each other to the limit. And then they end up on top of each other for about 15 seconds of a moto, and then pick it up, and they're still in the exact same battles before. So just crazy, crazy stuff. But as we move on to 450 Moto number 2 here, I want to highlight how confidence pertains to starts, because these guys are the best on the racetrack every week right now. And look at the difference of the starts here. Sexton gets a massive hole shot. Tomac, the only person that's even close to him. They are definitely riding at a different level right now, and it's certainly a lot of fun to watch, because they have provided some great racing for us over the last few weeks. But Sexton got the better of Tomac here today at Washougal. And it was so cool to see the emotion that was pouring out of him as he crossed the line. Of course, Tomac gave it everything he had in the second motor to try to pass him. Even had a couple run-ins trying to make a pass, but never was able to get around him. But if this doesn't get you hyped up, having Sexton with a huge fist bump over the line and the double hands raised pointing to the sky, I mean, awesome win for Sexton, and still just 5 points between them moving into this big break.
I want to remind everybody that this video is presented by onX Off-Road. Know where to go with the #1 off-road GPS app. Access 500,000 plus miles of trails and roads, open dates, and public lands. Download the onX Off-Road app today.
Moving on to the 250 class, and I wanted to highlight Jo Shimoda off the start here in 250 Moto 1. And the reason I want to do that is because at Spring Creek, he told me that he used starting blocks for the first time in his career and used it to his advantage to get a pretty good start in the second moto at Spring Creek. So he used it again here at Washougal, and for just the second time in his pro motocross career, Jo Shimoda ripped the whole shot from, a pretty outside gate pick, but actually just kind of swooped in and grabbed the whole shot. And I just use this to emphasize the fact that, hey, changing some stuff up about your start technique can work on occasion, as Shimoda demonstrates here. Starting blocks, something that he figured out and has been utilizing to his advantage here over the last couple weeks. But a little bit later on, I want to highlight this moment because every single week that I go back and review footage of these races, there's always one moment that I'm like, I didn't notice it at the beginning, and it's crazy to watch it again and see what these guys can do. Look at Jett Lawrence. Now, the uphill rollers here at Washougal are not easy to get over, and Lawrence decides just a little bit of airtime right here is plenty to rip a tear-off as he's kicking the bike down over these rollers. It's stuff like that it's a tiny little thing, but these guys do it every week, and you sometimes will miss it, but I love going back and finding the finer details of stuff like that. On to the start here in 250 Moto 2, though, and I wanted to highlight Seth Hammaker going for a little bit of a wild ride, because as they go over the whole shot line right here, we're going to key in as the camera switches, and you can see right where the arrow is going to point right here. Hammaker actually clips Jett Lawrence's rear tire, kicks him up, and then he clips it again and almost lays it over coming through the first corner. He's got basically the whole field behind him. He's coming through in like, what, 6th, 7th right there. Again, one of those things that if you don't slow back the footage down and take a look at a couple different things, you may not have caught it, but nice job for Hammaker to keep it on two wheels and keep it going through that first corner. But this is kind of the pivotal moment of the day, because Hunter Lawrence is going to lay it down while in third place in 250 Moto 2, and he almost caught Shimoda at the end of the Moto to win the overall and go 1-3, but he was right here to begin with, and Shimoda was fading late in the race. So you would think that without this mistake, Hunter Lawrence might have gone on to win the overall, but instead his brother is going to pass him, go on and pass Shimoda, and then take a 2-2 to the overall win here at Washougal. Just more points chipping away at Hunter, putting Hunter Lawrence further back in the championship, I should say, with Jett Lawrence pulling this thing away. And it's just that tiny little slide out that affected Hunter Lawrence here at Washougal. But now we got a big break coming up, and he's got a lot of time to think about what he can do over these last 4 rounds.